And so hopefully today's presentation will empower you is my goal, always at the beginning of these presentations. But I just wanted to kind of do a quick introduction about Atlas Lab. So as noted, Atlas Lab is a public art, landscape architecture, and urban design studio based in Sacramento, California. And really, our mission is to create with purpose, and the way people interact and fill in a space is the foundation to everything we do. We are extremely passionate about bringing humanistic and artistic design solutions to cities that are historically, culturally, and ecologically responsive. And our work balances whimsy with architectural rigor, testing materials, and technology. So we have three, guiding principles with our practice, and one of which about having tactical designs that amplify communities, let underrepresented communities share their voice, is incredibly powerful. And so that will be really the big focus of today's discussion, is about how tactical designs can be used, especially as an emerging design professional. Another one is a design innovation that resonates with place, and so that's incredibly important for us, that every project is authentic and nothing's ever cookie cut, stamped, replicated. That we always go with each project and make sure that something about that place is hidden and revealed within that. And then we're advocates for resiliency, and that's at the micro and macro scale. And whether that is, engaging in dialogue, having tactical designs that instigate a conversation about resiliency, or doing large scale planning studies, we really operate a large spectrum. So with this, it's just this quick snapshot of just the kind of project we've done in the last year. And it's a snapshot of nonprofit pro bono work, a snapshot of university work, housing work, waterfront work, and our public art focus as well. So huge spectrum, and we don't like to ever kind of pigeonhole ourselves into one particular niche. And so that provides us just flexibility to work on a handful of projects that we find that are meaningful and don't limit us in any way. So what is prototyping? What is tactical urbanism? And I think we're more familiar with these terms, but I kind of like to hit the reset button and just kind of lay it out, and why it's important to kind of one of the foundations to Atlas Lab. So just to kind of break it down, you may have heard, tactical urbanism or do-it-yourself urbanism, prototyping, kind of all these kind of buzzwords in kind of the last decade. But tactical urbanism is a city, organizational, or citizen-led approach to neighborhood building and project delivery using short-term, low-cost, and scalable projects intended to catalyze long-term change. And then do-it-yourself urbanism or prototyping using lightweight physical design projects to inform responses to challenges found throughout the urban environment. Really great source for all the things tactical urbanism is with Mike Lydon. And so please, if you haven't done so already, check out his book. And I think it's just a great resource about this type of work. And so why has tactical urbanism emerged? Prototyping emerged? It's really at kind of the center of the Great Recession, radical connectivity that we're having, shifting demographics, and citizens that are frustrated at their communities, or not, maybe they could see gentrification happening, or they're seeing a new development project happening, and they're frustrated because they feel like their voices are not being heard. And so tactical urbanism is a response to that. And so who can initiate these types of projects? Anybody is really the answer. Governments, nonprofits, designers, planners, grassroots groups, and frustrated residents. So really anybody can do it. And that's what's so powerful about this type of work. And then really for me, and where I started to approach this type of work, I didn't even know I was doing tactical urbanism work or prototyping work. It just kind of landed with, we often know, I think, when you get into practice, that project delivery is overly focused on long-term projects, which are expensive and politically challenging. And so I know in practice for myself, I was practicing for several years, but never making anything. I was constantly sitting at my computer and wanting to make things. And yet we know that it takes so long in the world of landscape architecture to get things built. We have so many phases to a project. And so I personally was getting very frustrated that I went into design to make things and I wasn't making anything. I was learning a whole lot, and I will never, and I value my, professional practice experience absolutely. But I also felt that, I was constantly waiting for something to happen. And what prototyping and or tactical urbanism is really kind of provided a doorway into just taking matters into my own hands. And with that, I think when we're in practice as well, and we may be learning a lot, I think we always have to ask ourselves all the time, who am I? What's my point of view? And what am I doing? It's incredibly important for you guys to just like pin this up at your desk and just constantly ask yourself this, because it's easy to get lost when you're in practice or even at your desk. It's like, what is my focus? What am I doing? How am I creating impact? And I know that it's easy when you're working to kind of, you're assigned a project and you're in it and your head's down, but sometimes you kind of lose yourself in that. And so I think it's an important balance to always ensure your health, happiness, and your mental well-being, to ask yourself these questions and ensure that you're finding a work environment and a practice that's supporting your own personal endeavors. And so with that, today, I'm going to be talking about 3 projects. These are more in the tactical urbanism / prototyping world. And again, these are just a focus. Our portfolio is growing. We're a 4-year-old practice. Atlas started in 2011 as a think tank while I was graduated from grad school, and I was practicing, but it was just a thing that, my friend and I were just doing on our nights and weekends, and we would work on publications and competitions, and then we really transitioned in doing this type of work. And now that we're formal practice, we're working on, like I said, larger projects. So I just don't want you to think like, oh, Atlas just does these tiny projects, but I think they're the kind of bedrock of how we think about our work and how we can continue to innovate. So I'm going to talk about Portal. Is a temporary installation here in Sacramento. This is our street, and believe it or not, our office is on this block. This is before it got redeveloped, but this is this street was, as you can see in this picture, half in progress. It was streetscape got redone, but it was a really underutilized, not safe street in downtown Sacramento. And a friend of mine who is a non-designer named Trey Borden, him and I got together and we started saying, why don't we do something? Let's just do something. I was practicing at a firm at the time, and I just said, hey, I just want to start doing something. Let's just make an installation and see what we can do to activate the street. And that was really our goal, was about bringing an activation, a really grassroots activation to the street. And was under development, and we really wanted this project to be a kind of beacon of what the future was, for the future of the area, but also to bring people together. And I think that was just like really, at least at this moment in time, it was really kind of, we're experiencing our own urban renaissance, and it was just really important for the community to come together and be part of it versus somebody coming in and saying, hey, this is what we think is cool. So with that, I just started sketching, and I knew that it was going to be a temporary installation. I knew it was going to be up for, it needed to be cost effective because we had no budget. And I just started with a simple frame, which turned into the project being called Portal, but knew I wanted to play with light. But I, just said, let me just create a simple structure, and then how it can morph over time. What can the structure start to do? And so it was just a wood slat structure with a reflective interior to it. We played around. And again, it was just like fun just sitting and sketching, right? You know, it was like hand drawing, then started playing around in Photoshop. But could the installation start to support vegetation? Could it support other artists? Could it start to then support programming? And could it be this, kind of beacon for different types of programming? Could it support a movie night, a open mic night, a food showcase, and education? And could it do informal gatherings? And so with that, we just started to kind of, I started to build graphics, and it was really great. And this, working with somebody who was a non-designer, because he was kind of thinking a totally different way. He was like, he's a big people person, and him and I just started talking to community members. Hey, what do you guys think about this project? And we had these sketches where we were going out, and we started to tell people, we started to let people know, hey, we're building this light-based installation. It's going to anchor programming, and we want you to be a part of it. So we were able to generate enough curiosity about it and generate funding to support it. And with that, we established a calendar of events. And this is something you guys all can do. Get a Squarespace account, and we I did this all myself, where I was just like designer, web designer, doing all these different types of things. But it was really great because I just got out of my comfort zone, was able to do something different. But we, engaged over 20 different nonprofits and local businesses to come take part of Portal and take it over for a day, essentially. And at no cost. There was no money that we were asking. It was just asking and inviting them to come. So we worked with a local maker lab in the area. And so here's myself, here's my friend Trey. And then we worked with this gentleman named Matt, and he was able to construct it for us because I, hadn't built anything like this. So I just said, hey, we have these drawings, like work with us. So it was really great to work with the local makers who were like super thrilled to be able to start making things. So we were able to use their warehouse to start doing mock-ups. And then, which was really great, we were able to test technology. And a big component too that I think I had seen another installation do was just, starting to see a more responsive design happening. So I wanted, in this case, for us to do a custom hashtag for the project that would then control the lighting to the installation. So anytime that anybody used hashtag Portal, it would pulse, the lighting would pulse in the structure. So that was like, it was just, not everybody knew about it, but when it happened, it was pretty cool. But what we were able to do before it got built was that we were able to generate a buzz about the project and share it with local media. So this is the time, again, getting out of your comfort zone and starting to do a press release. So I did my first press release about the project, and essentially just letting people know about it and inviting them to participate in it, and that it was going to happen for over a 3-week period. And we produced flyers about letting people know it was coming, and also did a MailChimp email blast to our colleagues and friends telling them about it. And then we, use the custom hashtag where we sprayed that all across about a mile radius outside of Portal and letting people know about it. And then we also linked that hashtag to the website and, on social media. So anybody who took pictures with the installation could share it. And that was really, really smart. And it was a really great idea because we essentially had like an influencer night where everybody came and who has tons of followers were able to take, hashtag and use the hashtag, and then it generated even more buzz and got more people to come to it. So again, this was like out of my comfort zone or what I do usually. But it was an awesome way to kind of share your project with the world. So this was opening day. As you can see, 12-foot tall structure, kind of seems like nothing, but in this picture, a lot is going on. We have the local planning group doing surveys and asking about a project that they're working on. We had other artists bring their artwork up and have it on display. We had food trucks, we had food and games, and it really just, this was opening night. Nobody knew what we were doing, but kind of seems simple, but at night, that's when it really came alive. And so this is a snapshot of an open mic night we did. We, as serving as past president of the local ASLA chapter, it was really cool. We did a plant takeover of the street, and you could see in the previous images that it was, highly like concrete environment, right? And so we did a huge plant takeover with, I think over 3,000 plants, and then we did, outdoor brunch and mimosas, which was really super cool. We also, had nonprofits come. We had the public library do a talk. We had a nonprofit come speaking about homelessness issues. And so again, it was really used as a platform for discussions. It was just the anchor to bring people together that was outside of a traditional, meeting hall or, a kind of city building. It was just a really great way to get people out. And then my ultimate favorite is that we hosted Sacramento's first silent disco, and so that was pretty amazing, and one of the best nights of my life. I know, I was like, all this hard work went into it, and then seeing hundreds of people dancing in silence was pretty cool. And then we had a movie night. So kind of all the things that we imagined in the beginning, we did that plus some more, which was pretty cool. Brought out, chairs and turf, and just had a really great time with that. And then the project concluded with a local music festival that was probably 2 miles away from the site or 3 miles away from the site, which we disassembled it, reassembled it, and brought it, and then it concluded. So it just had a nice like end to it. And everybody still asked for the project this day, and I just said, it's gone. We donated the materials to the maker lab that we were working with. So it was really great. And so something to just kind of be mindful of just like, okay, where is it going to go? Where's the afterlife, right? And this is not like legible, but it's just a snapshot of like me trying to outline the process. But it was about like just starting off with an idea versus like, here's a client, here's the project, here's the problem. It was just like, just start to draw. Pick a site that compels you, that you want to transform. Then find project champions, project sponsors. Don't be scared to ask, for funding. I think that's like, again, out of our comfort zone, but very critical. And I will say when this project ended, we got email from a local resident who said, thank you so much for this installation. I felt safe walking at night because there were so many more people, and the light itself, it was just a really great way of thinking about the impact of the project, how we wanted to really activate this underutilized street, and how we were able to do that, but we were also able to generate a sense of safety for folks. So just the takeaways for this project is, find a site that compels you, collaborate outside the field with your friends who are non-designers. Don't be afraid to ask for funding. Reach out to local media, learn how to do a press release, just Google it, and use social media to bring exposure. And again, I think these are more common things about social media, but at the time it was really kind of new for me. And this was, 5 years ago. So the next project I want to talk about is Peak Experience, another temporary installation, but very different. This was part of the Market Street Prototyping Festival. Market Street in San Francisco is one of the largest thoroughfares and main streets in SF. And they are redeveloping it, and they wanted communities, local designers to be part of the design process and start to test different prototypes, invite different prototypes to come to the street and see if anything stuck and that they would incorporate into the final design. So Market Street's about 2.2 miles long. Since it's such a big street, they broke it up into 5 segments and had 10 designers per segment. So 50 different projects were selected for this So when I started this process, I saw that, and again, this is kind of looking for those opportunities out there. Saw this project, even when I began, I saw this call, and I just said, well, what do I think of when I think of San Francisco? I think about the hills and how the neighborhoods are defined by the hills, the topography itself. So I started to just chart out all the different hills in San Francisco. I got a topo map, and I came across an article called Peak Experience, where a gentleman was just started charting. He didn't visually chart them, but he was notating them. And I found this, I found this online, and I said, wow, I'm going to just start mapping this out, because this map doesn't exist. I mean, yes, you can go on Google, but not everything is not labeled. It was just this gentleman who had found different ones and started labeling them. And so it was just nice for me to just have a fun little research project to start to visualize the research. And then from there, I was able to take, all those hills and start to kind of zoom in a little further and just go, okay, what are the most like, favorite hills of more iconic hills of San Francisco, and start to visually kind of map those out further. And so from at that point, then developed a concept strategy, was really how Market Street itself is flat. The rest of San Francisco, it's pretty steep, and has significant, amazing views, but Market Street lacks those views. It's, flat terrain. And so I wanted to bring the topography as an agent for interactive play and engagement, and essentially, bring play to Market Street that does not exist in this really hostile, like concrete, heavily trafficked environment. And so the project site we were provided was like a 15 by 15 space, I think. So I just, again, not thinking about parameters or any limitations anyway, I just said, okay, well, what does that look like on the block? So we were given a block to work on, and just decided, okay, well, what does that mean? So I just took all those hills. We essentially created mini versions of them, scaled them down, and started laying them out, because they have a very, Market Street is a huge sidewalk space. We have 18 feet of clear existing sidewalk. And then you have really, extended amenity kind of sidewalk area where you have about 12 feet. So we were saying, okay, well, this could land within that zone. And if it were deployed, what could it look like, at a larger scale? So again, we were given a small area, but still thought about it on a larger scale, and just started, again, these were for the submission of the competition. So views of what it looks like, and then overlaying the streets to start to identify them. And so here is some of those snapshots. So from there, we were selected and we started to go out. We had about 3 engagement activities where we went out on site and started to get feedback about our proposal and how we could refine it. And I knew ultimately we were going to have to reduce the size of it and the footprint, and how we were going to do that and which hills we were going to choose. So the thing that was really, really impactful was just asking, I think a lot of the kind of community pop-up, community engagement events, you're kind of asking these generic questions. Do you like it? Do you agree with this project? But what we did is we kind of took matters in our own hand and created another poster board where we just asked, like, what is your favorite hill of San Francisco? And made it very specific to the project to get more thoughtful and engaged responses than do you agree or disagree? And so that was really cool, because then everybody started having an opinion of what their favorite hill was. And we thought that was really fun and super engaging. And everybody kind of got territorial about, this is my favorite hill. No, this is my neighborhood. No. So that was really fun. So from that, based on that research and that feedback we got, we narrowed it down to 3 hills that were geographically clustered together. So Nob Hill, Telegraph Hill, and Russian Hill. And so from there, we were, started to then continue to refine our 3D model in Rhino. And I picked pink because I just wanted to be loud with it and get people's attention on a really, again, more concrete gray space. How can we bring some color and life to it? So we then landed and refined the project, and then landed it in the space just to test what it would, look like. And then we knew the 3 components of the project. We had to kind of go, okay, well, how are we building this? How is it going to be done? And was geofoam, which, structural foam that could be easily milled. We knew fabrication, finding a shop that had a large CNC mill to help us, and then rubberized surfacing. So we reached out to fabricators, asked them, please, can you help us? And they were able to commit to doing the fabrication, which was really critical to making the project even happen. And they were able to do that at a discount. And then we were asked for sponsorship through Miracle Playgroup, who provided the rubberized surfacing for us. And then we found a company that, sold the geofoam, and we reached out, and and what we had done was that we knew how much we needed to get because we played around. Okay, we went online. How much are these blocks? How big are they? And we were able to then, from like knowing the size that they provided online, knew if we reassembled that we. Also had to think about the scale of the project. So what we were doing was, and sorry, I'm getting a note that my internet might be unstable. So just if I fall off, I will come back. But what was helpful was that we were able to do a slope analysis on the mounds themselves, because you're creating miniature versions of them. So essentially, if you were to scale it down, then it would be very flat. So we had to vertically exaggerate the topography. But once you start doing that, and then you have to get it at a certain height to even be visible on the street or for somebody to sit down, you got moments where it was incredibly steep. And we didn't want to completely morph the hills where it wasn't. We knew we were morphing them vertically, but we didn't want to continue to alter it so much where it was like, completely not the hill itself. So we were able to just like really study and understand like where it was most steep, because
Hi, Kim, your internet's frozen there a bit. Hi, Kim. Hi. Sorry, we're back. Yeah, you're back. Okay. Maybe if you want, you could turn off your camera. That may help.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to stop my video.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again and see what happens. Okay, are you guys with me?
Yes, we could see.
Okay, great. So we're doing the slope analysis and working with Miracle Playgroup. They were really curious on how steep you can go before the rubberized surfacing would not stay on. So that was really cool to be able to experiment and work with them and decide, at which point could the surfacing fall off. And we realized it stayed on the whole time, which was really great. Here are some snapshots of us at the fabrication shop where it was getting milled. So that was really, really exciting to be able to see something get built from, a sketch. That before in our rendering, we had 3 mounds that were, together, essentially clustered together, but we had to separate them out in order for it to fit in a truck. So when you guys are thinking about doing installations, just think about how you're going to move it, what bit, the size of the truck you're going to need. And, I had gotten several quotes, and it was really expensive for movers to do it. So I just got a U-Haul truck, and it was just very, very easy. And then just thinking about the weight of the structure too, because it was foam, it was very, very easy to transport. So that was really, really great. And then we brought it to my house. We were able to paint it and add elevation markers to it, and then labels of the hills. And then we put it on a dolly system and rolled it across Market Street and set it into place. And here was the opening day. It was open for really a weekend. This was a 3-day kind of study of how well it was doing, and it was children were using in different ways that I even anticipated. And then it was also great was to see how the adults were a little bit more scared and hesitant to like engage with it. They were definitely like, what is it? And so, this woman here is like touching it and she's like, what is this material? Do I feel safe? Can I sit on it? And so that was pretty cool. But, all in all, great success. And we found a permanent home for this installation in another underutilized schoolyard on the other side of town. So that was super cool to find, another space for it. So the takeaways for the project was is to look for local regional design calls, ask for sponsorship. If you can't get funding from a client, look for sponsorship or how people can donate materials that way. Think about how you're going to transport your installation, ensure it's lightweight. It is really helpful to just start to inform how you're going to move forward. So the last project I'm going to talk about is Micro Dune. Micro Dune is another project here in Sacramento. There was a call from the Metro Chamber, our local Sacramento Metro Chamber, asking for a big idea. And so my big idea was we need to connect the city to our river. Our Sacramento, we have a river right in our front yard, but nobody would know about it. So we have a levee system that really prevents our views to the river. And I really wanted to kind of change and shift our perceptions of our river and really treat it as, this community, our community asset, which it's really, we turn our backs to. So starting with that, looking at the research, always important to kind of frame the project within research and knowing that, Sacramento was once a freshwater wetland and, again, being urbanized and that land being translated to agriculture has really disrupted and created this binary relationship between land and water. And historically, inland sand dunes existed in the Delta. And so with that, I really wanted to take cues from the Delta and pair that with programming, similar to how we kind of did with, the portal installation. So the proposal here was, and again, the only brief was come up with the idea to transform Sacramento. And from that, this was it, the proposal was this, engineered, manufactured sand dune that would be, supported and framed by a series of shipping containers that would then support, different programming. Started kind of mapping out, okay, what scale do we want to be? How tall do we need to get the sand dune so you could start to have views of the river itself, and started playing around with scale. And then just started highlighting the amenities to that, could it be an overlook, creating an overlook area, supporting, local vendors in the area, thinking about shade, thinking about the sand surface. So started to kind of break down the components of it from the sketch itself. And then thinking about programming, how were we going to, program it? And currently we don't have a lot of beach, we don't have beach areas. I think we have like one small beach area that's close to downtown, but how can we support different programming that we typically don't see in the downtown area? So from volleyball, lounging, and performances happening in a beach setting. And then here are some sketches of how it would look during a festival or a farmer's market situated along the river. And then kind of views back to the river and to the city itself. And then here's the backside of it, a rendering of it, with showcasing the vending kiosk. And so again, from that idea, was able to share it with media and bring attention to our riverfront and the idea of having this urban beachfront, which everybody got really excited about. And so I created a buzz for the project just through these sketches and this idea. And again, this was all just from a call of like, how can we transform our city? So I talked to developers and nobody wanted to, I was doing the same thing where I was looking for funding, ran in, because it was such a larger project on a larger scale and it wasn't really temporary. It was just harder to kind of find investors for the project. So I said, you know what, I'm going to think big and I'm going to start small. So why don't we just start off with one shipping container? So it was really nice because, our local ASLA chapter and I help host it every year as our parking day. So I was like, hey, like, let me just think about like the idea of, one car stall. What could you do there? So came up with the idea of the micro dune, which is, one shipping container that would house the sand. And then thought about, oh, well, that would be easy to transport and kind of move across town. We kept the doors on it for easy transport and to contain the sand. I worked with a local artist to do some graphics around it, and always picking a kind of key color for all the designs as well as to be eye-catching. So the project was then presented working with the local chapter to activate another underutilized lot here in town as part of our kind of first Fridays, which is our kind of like art walks here once a month in Sacramento. And it was really nice to pair it. And what I did was really use the installation to, or here's some snapshots of it on kind of opening day. And, again, tons of families and kids playing, and everybody was just saying, thank you so much for bringing this to our neighborhood because we don't have a lot of play amenities. And it's always at these events, there's nothing for my kids to do. So thank you so much. But what it also did was it again served as an anchor for feedback. So I wanted to generate a conversation about our investment into the river and what we can improve, what we can do. And again, this project wasn't at the river. We were going into different neighborhoods that don't have access to the river and ask them about it. So that was really nice to just get diverse voices at the table to start to influence how we invest, make future investments here in Sacramento. And I will say from this project has led to lunch with the mayor and telling them about the project that led to the mayor then making it a top priority for us to focus on the river. And then it turned into then a design competition that I helped say, hey, we should have a design competition focused on the river, which led Atlas being working on the feasibility study for reinvestment into our waterfront. So these tiny projects can really snowball into supporting larger initiatives and larger projects it just shows the magnitude of like the impact of something very small to something really large. And so the takeaway is just think big, start small on all your projects. Use this installation as a strategy for direct feedback. Mobility is your friend. Think about how you're going to move it. Study what works, and just keep pushing these ideas about how to improve your own communities. And so I'm just going to end with I'm going to take a moment and just show you guys what I'm working on right now. Another installation, but this time permanent. What's on the drawing board we have. And again, when I started Atlas, I really wanted to make public art as part of Atlas's approach and the types of projects we do. So with that, the Sacramento Convention Center is, currently getting renovated and set to debut this spring. And as part of it, there was a call for, public artists. And so what was great about it was, I had this portfolio of all these smaller prototyping and tactical urbanism projects that I was able to submit into the portfolio to do for a public art call. So it's a different format. It's, not a traditional request for a proposal. And it's, just a set of images that you're sharing and, having your artist statement. And so that was really great to just be able to shift gears a bit out of landscape architecture, but having the tools in order to kind of pursue this type of work. So here in the foreground is the proposal. It's called California Cathedral. And the project is essentially a vertical mosaic of all the trees we've lost in California due to climate change in the past decade. We've lost over 147 million trees, due to drought and fire, pests. And this is really just kind of a node to the trees that we've lost. And the form itself also echoes the form of a tree. And so thinking about all the kind of tips and tricks I've learned along the way on these installations, it was very different because this is a permanent installation. So you had to think about maintenance, and I wanted to use wood. And when you think typically of public artwork, you think of bronze sculptures, metal work primarily, that is, in a public setting that's really, can withstand the elements and graffiti or, any damage. And so I really wanted to use wood, and that's, something that I just was really committed to, and the dialogue about the project. So with that, we had to raise, initially these forms were kind of more grounded, but we raised them up to ensure clearances from people kind of being able to like carve into the wood or, and then, so we were able to lift the structure. So it's 24 feet tall. So it's a pretty giant, and from like the work that I was doing on the smaller scale installations, like a big jump up that way. But the goal is that, you have a contemplative moment that you similarly, when you go into the forest and you look up and you see the sky, you see the sun. I really wanted to create that moment within the sculpture. So as you walk in, there's a framed moment, and really creating a moment of contemplation. And then again, framed by all the trees that were formerly, formerly in our landscape. And so with that, here are just some study models of it. This is just a smaller 3D print of it where we were testing lighting, what the interior space will look like from below and above. And then this is how it's currently getting constructed. So it's totally, literally in the process at the shop getting constructed. We found a shop in Utah that was able to do this for us. It was, again, really, really hard to find kind of fabricators who kind of specialize in supporting artists and their work. So this is kind of, you're just seeing now the interior structure that would support all the wood. And so really excited. Please, follow Atlas Lab, and you'll be able to see kind of the debut of it in a month from now when it's supposed to be installed, fingers crossed. So